Let's talk about texts. Texts. Not text, the Enochian 30th Aether, but texts of the I Ching. Yesterday we talked about the Yarrow-Stock method of getting a hexagram for a I Ching demonstration, and I showed you a couple different techniques of generating those randomly generating those lines. But I didn't say much about the texts, the book itself, that once you arrive at a hexagram, how you get your specific answer. Okay, and there are many, many fine texts. This is sort of the classic for the English-speaking world. Sometimes you'll see it everywhere. It's probably the best-selling I Ching. You can find it at any bookstore. By Wilhelm. It's called the Wilhelm Baines, with an introduction, a lengthy introduction by Carl Jung. It has two main texts. One is just sort of the straightforward text, and the other one is an expanded or dilated commentary. So it's absolutely wonderful. The first one I used, the first one I got a hold of and used, was by John Blofeld. But there are many others. Aleister Crowley ended up translating or interpreting and translating his own, as did I. But this is the one I showed you yesterday, published many, many, many years ago by our dear sister Marlene Cornelius. Here's a fine one by Thomas Cleary. And of course mine was published in the Book of Ordinary Oracles. And before that was even published, I did a little pamphlet of my own called The I Ching of Milo. Now, I'm going to give you a demonstration of technically how you use the book. First of all, in my opening words about the 16 court cards of the tarot, I show how those 16 court cards represent, see the hexagram up there in the corner right there. Okay, so there are 64 total hexagrams in the I Ching, and they're made up of two trigrams, or three lines. See, there's the trigrams that you got in the column to the far left. Those are the lower trigrams, and the trigrams at the top of each hexagram you'll see along the top row. Okay, and those trigrams, there's 8 trigrams, one for the sun, one for the moon, one for the phallus, one for the yoni, and one each for fire, water, air, and earth. Well, the ones for fire, water, air, and earth can combine to make the 16 court cards of the tarot, because they are elementally mixed and submixed by fire, water, air, and earth. So, in my little opening words in the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, let's see if I can quickly get to it. Let's see. Talk amongst yourselves. I Ching hexagrams. The I Ching, or the Chinese Book of Changes, has been called the Kabbalah of the East. The tarot of ceremonial magic does not presume to act as a replacement to this venerable work and divinatory tool, but there are certain areas where the Kabbalah and the I Ching clearly coincide. There are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. The hexagram is a figure made up of 6 lines, either broken, yin or female, or unbroken, yang or male. Each hexagram is made up of 2 trigrams. Figures made up of 3 lines, either broken or unbroken. There are 8 such trigrams representing male, female, sun, moon, water, air, and earth. Of these, 4 elemental trigrams perfectly parallel the 4 elements of tarot, the 4 suits of tarot. Okay, that being said, this morning, let me clear this here. This morning, I'm going to just demonstrate by tossing these sticks. This is the Crowley Method, we'll call it. You can just use popsicle sticks if you want. Just take 6 popsicle sticks and run a line down the center of one side and leave the other side blank. You could also designate somehow or other with another little painted dot or something on one of them to make them serve as a moving line. Okay. On my sticks that I had custom made by a friend, I use just a little bit different grain of wood where I can easily identify this one as the moving line. So, in a consultation, this will be hard to show you here. I'm sitting on the bed, the upstairs bed here. Won't you join me? You would concentrate on your question. Now, my Grady McMurtry, when he first showed me how he uses Crowley's own sticks, he closed his eyes, concentrated on his question, and held them up one at a time to his forehead, and then, without opening his eyes, laid them down, one after the other. I preferred the sensory phenomena of hearing these click. I enjoy the clicking noise of when I manipulate the yarrow stalks, and so I concentrate on my question. And let's just, for an example here, what is how can I most wisely communicate the wisdom of the I Ching to my Facebook friends this morning? What is the wisest thing I could share with them? And I shuffle them in my hands. And I pretend God is Chinese for a moment. And I enter into his shrine. And I toss the sticks. Now, you're going to have to take my... Here, they look like that, okay, at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange those, or I'm going to adjust them without disturbing the order they fell. And I'm going to put them in order. This time it was easy. Sometimes it's not so easy. Okay. Now going to show you the hexagram that I achieved. See that? We got from the bottom up. You count from the bottom up with Yi Ching. Broken, 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 unbroken, broken, unbroken. Now, I can tell which one is the moving line, and the moving line is the bottom one. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's just start with the hexagram that is going to start sort of a three-part answer to my question. What is the wisest message I could leave with you? Now, to start, I'm going to take the Wilhelm Baines edition because I've got, it contains a fold-out of the all 64 hexagrams. And I'm going to see what the first three look like. These are the bottom ones. Okay. And these are the top ones. So I'm going to see the bottom trigram is all female, all broken lines. And that is Kun. Okay. And the top one is unbroken, broken, unbroken. And that is, excuse me, Li. Right at the top there. Li. Okay. So, going this way, from Li coming down and Kun going to the left, we come up with hexagram. See, hang on, I just want to get this totally right. Hexagram 35. So, I'll start with this one, the Wilhelm Baines. 35. Here's the wisdom I'm to leave with you. 35, Chin, progress. And here's the judgment. This is the pure judgment. Progress. The powerful prince is honored with horses in large numbers. In a single day, he is granted audience 3 times. Now, until you sort of get into the groove of the imagery of the Yi Ching, you're likely to say, well, what the does that mean? You know? But there's a nice little commentary by Confucius. As an example of progress, this pictures a time when a powerful feudal lord rallies the other lords around the sovereign and pledges fealty and peace. The sovereign rewards him richly and invites him to closer intimacy. Now, that is a metaphoric vignette of your situation. Okay, you're supposed to kind of read your particulars into the generality of that metaphor. You kind of get that? A twofold idea is set forth here. The actual effect of the progress emanates from a man who is in a dependent position and whom the others regard as their equal and therefore willing to follow. This leader has enough clarity of vision not to abuse his great influence, but to use it rather for the benefit of his ruler. His ruler, in turn, is free of all jealousy, showers presents on the great man, and invites him continually to his court. An enlightened ruler and an obedient servant, this is the conditions on which great progress depends. Okay. Now, the second part of the straight shot of this hexagram is called the image. And the image is the sun rises over the earth, the image of progress. Thus the superior man himself brightens his bright virtue. Now I know all of this sounds a little fortune cookie-ish, but many times it is very fortune cookie-ish. Okay. So there is the two things that are the main thrust of the answer to number 35, progress. Almost every little translation, okay, even Lon, okay, has the equivalent of the judgment and the image. So that's part one of the answer. But this is called the Book of Changes. Okay? There is the secret to the Yi Ching's at least possibility to give you a clear answer of the present situation is the assumption that everything is constantly moving. And the very best we can get is a snapshot of the movement. That's where the real answer is, okay? Because there is no past, there is no future, there's a continual now that is continually changing. If we get a snapshot of the change, it's if you had one of those little flip cartoon. Remember if you ever had a pad of paper and daydreaming in homeroom, you make little flip cartoons of little stick men walking, okay? And let's say you've got two stick men in your flip cartoon, and one shows them apart, and one shows them closer together, and one shows one hand reaching out to another, and then you don't know what's going to happen. Okay? He could be reaching out to hit somebody, or he could be reaching out to shaking the other person's hand. It's the next flip that's going to be important to whether you know what's going to happen. So the Yi Ching answers in three parts, just like a flip cartoon. What we just read here in the judgment and the image is like the first still cartoon. Now we're going to read the moving line. We're going to get a sense of where this progress is going. And in our case, the moving line is the bottom one. Okay, let's see if I can get my dramatic. Okay, the moving line is the bottom one, that one. It's moving. And by moving, it means it's old and it's going to flip into its opposite. But before it flips into its opposite, it has a little comment of its own in the text. And so you start reading these from the bottom up. So this is the moving line has a commentary of its own, or it has a poem of its own. 6 at the beginning, the 6 is, for the time being, it means it's the moving line. 6 at the beginning means progressing but turning back. Perseverance brings good fortune. If one meets with no confidence, one should remain calm. No mistake. Okay, so if only 2 people watch my thing this morning, I shouldn't get too excited. Okay, yeah, well, I thought it was going to be an interesting thing and hundreds of people watch, but I guess nobody really liked it. But hang on, it may still turn out okay. Okay? Does that make sense? That's our moving line. So that's cartoon number 2 in our flip cartoon. So now this is going to flip into its opposite, creating a brand new hexagram, which will be the 3rd part of our answer. Okay. And the 3rd part of our answer, that it means it changes to, I'm going to have to look it up here. Okay. Li on the top and Chin on the bottom, and it turns to 21. 21, another hexagram, and that's our 3rd condition. If you can't get an idea of how it's answering you, give up for the day. 21, biting through. The hexagram represents an open mouth with an obstruction in the 4th place between the teeth. As a result, the lips cannot meet. To bring them together, one must bite energetically through the obstacle. Okay, here's the hardcore, the judgment. Biting through has success. It is favorable to let justice be administered. Concepts like that. The image is thunder and lightning, the image of biting through. Thus the kings of former times made firm the laws through clearly defined penalties. Okay. Now, I don't know how well that truly answered my demonstration question, but I'd like to show you how other translators handle those same things. Okay. For the first one, 35, remember it said, progress. A powerful prince is honored with horses in large numbers. In a single day, he is granted an audience 3 times. Okay. Crowley says on that one, 35, let me look up his 35. He calls it, instead of progress, he calls it advance. To advance when thou hast won folk ease, thy Lord shall give thee gifts and dignities. See how he handled that? Powerful prince is honored with horses in large numbers. In a single day is granted an audience 3 times. Now it had a moving line. Oh, and he doesn't treat the image directly at all. But for the moving line, remember the moving line was progressing but turning back. Perseverance brings good fortune. If one meets with no confidence, one should remain calm, no mistake. And Crowley handles that in one line. Firm, patient, and great-hearted. Wait thy day. Okay. Now, let's see how Clarence Cleary, or Thomas Cleary, answers that one. So 35. Remember Wilhelm Baines called it progress. Powerful prince is honored with horses, large numbers, in single days, granted an audience 3 times. Advance. Advancing, a secure lord uses gift horses in abundance and holds meetings 3 times a day. And for the image, light emerges over the earth, advancing. Cultured people illumine virtue by reflecting it in themselves. That's beautiful. Let's see how Lon handles it. Or, excuse me, let's see how Milo handles Hexagram 35. Instead of powerful prince is honored with horses in large numbers in a single day is granted an audience 3 times. Milo says progress, promotion, honor, a raise. You're a bright boy or girl. Your boss is hip and pulls you up the corporate ladder. And instead of, for the moving line, instead of progress but turn back, perseverance brings good fortune. If one meets with no confidence, one should remain calm, no mistake. Milo says, you ran your idea up the flagpole. Nobody saluted. Don't sweat it. They'll come around. Okay. Should I also compare biting through? Biting through has success. It is favorable to let justice be administered. Crowley says, unite by gnawing. Here success comes by proper use of legal stress. And for the, no moving line. You don't read any of the moving lines for the hexagram that it turns into. Okay, and Cleary interprets that as biting through, as the biting through one. Biting through successfully is useful in exercising justice. And Milo I'm never smarter than when I'm somebody else. Biting through. Criminal lawsuit, tattletale traitor must be busted and punished. Throw the book at him, but nothing else. That's how I handled biting through. It is favorable. Biting through has success. It is favorable to let justice be administered. And the image, thunder and lightning, the image of biting through. Thus the kings of former times made firm the laws through clearly defined penalties. So again, Milo said, criminal lawsuit, tattletale traitor must be busted and punished. Throw the book at him, but nothing else. Okay. If you're interested in the I Ching of Milo, the whole thing is in the Book of Ordinary Oracles. It's also on Kindle, just as the I Ching of Milo. And that's it for today. Once again, I'm upstairs in the haunted mansion of Sacramento. But it's nice and warm up here this morning, so, and it's a chilly day. So anyway, I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. And until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to others. Stay careful. The the pandemic is not getting better in places, and people are getting careless. And with all the people coming for Thanksgiving and the holidays, don't let your guard down. And if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you haven't had your booster, get your booster. Okay? I need you to be an ear to my babblings every morning. So please, don't die. Until tomorrow, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.